The room wasn't dark, so much as uneven. Patches of dim yellow bulbs suffocating in metal cages. The air thick with disinfectant, and something metallic that clung to the tongue. And nobody was paying attention to anything except their own business until a girl in a striped jacket dropped her phone while sliding into a marked seat. The wrong seat. The one with the red sticker half peeled on the armrest. It hit the floor with a smack that cut through the low murmur. And when she grabbed it, the flashlight burst on, full beam, aimed directly at the row in front of her, hitting Jimin's face at an angle so sharp it looked like she'd done it on purpose. The gasp she made trying to turn it off only amplified the sound. Too high, too shaky, and someone 3 seats down snorted. An ugly, surprised noise that bounced across the aisle at the exact moment a staff member in a vest appeared beside Jimin and said, not loudly, but clearly enough for people to register the tone before the words, "Sir, you're in a restricted area. We need you to change seats." The sentence dropped like something heavy, wrong, misfiled, and because it was aimed at him, every movement around froze just half a second too late. A boy's soda hissed open in his hand, spraying his sleeve. A woman coughed at the wrong volume. Someone's earbuds fell out and dangled stupidly. Jimin didn't react fast enough. Not because he was resisting, but because the room reacted before he could. 3 girls in the opposite row whipped their heads up so sharply, one of them hit the seat, muttering, "Ow," under her breath, while another girl tried to hide her phone, but hit record instead. The red icon blinking like a siren, she was too panicked to notice. The staff member repeated, "This row is reserved," but quieter now, as if volume could undo the sentence already launched into the air, and Jimin shifted, that small, polite half nod he'd normally do in public. Except here it looked out of place, like he was apologizing for something he didn't do. The rustle was immediate, legs pulling in, jackets dragged across vinyl, people trying to make space, but not actually moving, just pretending, staring without staring. Someone whispered, "No way," far too clearly. A guy near the aisle straightened up so fast, his chair creaked like a warning. Another girl actually tried to stand, then sat back down because she realized standing would make it obvious she was staring at him. Jimin finally got up. One smooth motion, but it wasn't smooth in the room. It made the tension buckle, and the girl who dropped her phone earlier whispered, "Shit, shit, shit," into her hands. The staff member pointed toward another seat, 3 rows back near the wall, but he did it too mechanically, like he was following a rule he didn't realize would collide with reality this hard. Jimin stepped into the aisle, and that was the moment everything shifted. A guy with a backpack blocked him without meaning to, then panicked, then tried to sidestep, but bumped into another person who turned too fast and knocked a bag over, the contents spilling loudly. Lip balm, a metal water bottle, something that rolled under a seat. Someone said, "Stop filming," but it came out as a hiss, not a command. A girl in a hoodie raised her phone anyway, lowered it, raised it again, caught between impulse and fear of being seen. Jimin moved past them, head slightly down, but the motion only drew more eyes, like the act of him changing seats in a place he shouldn't have been in the first place, pulled gravity itself toward him. The man in the backpack whispered, "Sorry," 3 times, none of which landed anywhere. A boy near the corner leaned forward, elbow on his knee, pretending to tie his shoelace while staring straight at Jimin's hands. The staff member kept repeating, "Just here, sir, just here," even though Jimin was already following, already in motion, already too visible. And when he reached the new seat, another problem appeared. Someone was already sitting there, a woman in a beige coat hugging her purse to her chest, eyes wide, whispering, "No, no, no," as if she could erase herself. Jimin paused, not dramatic, just the unavoidable pause of a human being confronted with a chair that was supposed to be empty, but wasn't. That pause was the 4th wrong sound in the room. People inhaled sharply, too many at once. Phones rose again. The staff member froze. Someone said, "Are you serious?" loud enough to snap a few heads his way. The woman in beige half stood, half sat, clutching the armrest, unsure whether to give up the seat or stay. And in the back row, someone finally said his name. Not loud, not reverent, not excited. Just a quiet, stunned confirmation no one was ready for. "That's Jimin." And the word didn't echo. It scraped. The room bent around it, and nobody knew where to look anymore. The woman in the beige coat finally lurched upward, but too late. Her purse strap caught on the armrest, yanking her sideways so hard she let out a startled yelp. And that single noise ricocheted through the whole section like a dropped dish in a silent cafeteria. Except this place wasn't silent, and still everyone reacted as if they'd been caught doing something wrong. Half the row jerked their heads around, Someone barked out an involuntary laugh that died halfway. A man 2 seats over muttered, "Oh God," like he was narrating a disaster he wanted no part of. And the staff member's voice emerged again, thinner this time. "Ma'am, please, just move back a bit." Though he wasn't looking at her at all, his eyes fixed on Jimin like the situation might rearrange itself if he stared hard enough. The beige coat woman finally pulled free, stumbling into the aisle and bumping a teen girl who was mid-scroll. Her screen lit up with the pause video she'd already taken of Jimin being pointed toward the new seat. And when the teen's thumb twitched, the screen resumed playing at full brightness, the tiny audio. His footsteps, the staffer's voice, leaking out for everyone close enough to hear. The teen panicked and pressed every part of the screen, except the pause button, eyes wide, and people behind her craned their necks to see, only pretending not to. Jimin stood there, not taking the now vacated seat yet, because the beige coat woman hadn't fully backed away. She was still in the aisle, trying to gather her things, dropping her Metro card, her lip gloss rolling down the incline of the floor, until someone's shoe stopped it. But he didn't pick it up, just stared at it, like touching anything. Right now might drag him into the center of whatever was happening. A boy with bleached hair whispered, way too clearly, "Why would he sit here?" And the girl next to him elbowed him too hard, whispering, "Shut up," even though the damage was done. The people in front of them turned, eyes darting between Jimin, the seat, the staffer, and the boy who'd spoken. Someone's earbud chimed with the notification. Loud, cheerful, wrong. A girl dropped her water bottle, the plastic thud echoing like something heavier. The staffer tried again, but his voice cracked. "Sir, just here, please." He gestured at the seat the beige coat woman had scrambled out of, but his hand was shaking, and the gesture wasn't clear. It pointed too wide, almost at 2 seats at once, and 3 different people reacted as if he meant them. The nearest guy flinched, grabbed his bag protectively. A woman in the next seat recoiled like she'd been accused of something. An older man lifted his ticket stub in the air, as if waving a white flag. Jimin stepped forward anyway, but before he could sit, someone in the back row stood up too quickly, their chair slamming into the metal barrier behind them with a thunderclap that made half the room gasp. "Sorry," the person blurted. But the apology was useless, because the noise had already triggered a chain reaction. Phones lifted, people angled their screens. One girl mouthed, "No way," again, filming without raising her arm, her lens barely peeking between the seats in front of her. And then, like a final spark, the striped jacket girl, the one who dropped her phone at the start, blurted, "He wasn't supposed to be here." Too loud for denial, too soft to be brave, and instantly regretted it. She clapped a hand over her mouth, eyes wide, but it didn't matter. The sentence hung there, bitter and definite. People turned toward her, toward Jimin, toward the staffer, toward the red sticker peeling on the armrest of the seat he had just been moved away from. The rule was real. The mistake was real. And now, everyone knew it. The entire room tightened, bodies angled inward without actually crowding him, a pressure forming in the air like the moment before a subway door slammed shut. A man muttered, "This is so awkward," and another shushed him, but not gently. Someone accidentally turned their flashlight on again. A girl tried to hide her phone inside her sleeve, but the lens stuck out. The staffer finally forced the moment, reaching out, not touching, just motioning. "Sir, please sit." But the command wasn't to Jimin anymore. It was to the room, to the chaos, to the eyes that refused to look away. Jimin lowered himself into the seat. The wrong seat, the one everyone would remember. And the instant he did, the crowd didn't calm. It jolted, like the whole section had taken a breath it didn't know how to exhale. The damage was done, and everyone felt complicit. The seat swallowed him unevenly, a soft thud against the vinyl that shouldn't have meant anything, but somehow made the entire row shift like they'd all felt the impact through their own spines. And before anyone could process it, a guy in the next seat over jerked upright so violently his earbuds flew out and swung like little white pendulums, one of them smacking Jimin's forearm. Light, accidental, but loud enough in meaning to ripple through the section. The guy panicked, whispering, sorry," trying to reel in the dangling cord while knocking his knee against the seat in front of him, making the woman there jolt and drop her compact mirror, which clattered open and reflected a tiny, warped triangle of Jimin's face back toward the aisle. That reflection was enough. Someone saw it, gasped too softly for a gasp, but too sharply for breathing, and the 3 girls behind him leaned forward in sync, but not intentionally, their heads bumping together with a muted crack. One of them cursed, another giggled from shock. The third said, "Stop looking," even though all 3 were staring straight past his shoulder at the peeling red sticker that had started the whole mess. The staffer tried to step back, but his knee hit the corner of a seat, making a dull, pained grunt slip from him, and a boy near the exit misheard it as a signal, lifting his phone high before immediately lowering it, embarrassed, then raising it again halfway, unsure. His hesitation dragged attention like a magnet, and 2 more phones followed, rising in staggered, crooked angles. A woman in business slacks hissed, "Put that down." But she wasn't talking to anyone specific, just projecting the panic in her own chest. And that hiss turned into a chain reaction. Someone whispered, "Is he being moved again?" Someone else mumbled, "No, that's the seat. That's the one." And a teen girl with glitter eyeliner stood up halfway, before realizing standing made her more obvious, and she sank back down so quickly, her chair squeaked hard enough to make people flinch. Jimin adjusted in the seat, barely, a shift of weight, but the motion triggered another wave. A man 2 rows behind knocked over his soda can, sending it rolling with a hollow metallic clatter down the sloped floor, weaving between feet like it was searching for someone's attention. Everyone watched it for half a second too long, as if following the can counted as an excuse not to be caught staring at him. When it finally stopped against someone's boot, the woman whose foot it touched yelped like the metal had burned her, clutching her ankle even though it hadn't touched skin, and she muttered, "This is insane," into her hands, loud enough for her row to hear, but soft enough to pretend she'd said nothing. Meanwhile, the striped jacket girl tried to slip her phone into her bag, but it buzzed with the notification the moment she touched the screen. A preview of the photo she'd taken earlier, flashing bright enough for the whole row to see, his figure unmistakable. A guy beside her inhaled sharply, whispering, "Delete it!" But she froze, because pressing anything would confirm she'd captured him in the wrong section at the wrong time, and the indecision itself became a performance. Her thumb hovering, trembling, retracting, hovering again. Across the aisle, an older man who had pretended to be reading a brochure for the last 5 minutes finally lowered it, revealing a phone behind it, already filming. A girl 2 seats away saw this, nudged her friend, whispered too loudly, "He's recording." And her friend swung around so fast, her hair hit a man in the face. He recoiled, knocking his knee into the metal underside of the seat with a hollow tang that echoed like a dropped utensil. The staffer winced. People turned. Jimin didn't move, but the lack of movement made him more visible, like stillness was a spotlight. Someone at the back accidentally kicked a metal signpost, sending a deep ringing through the hall that made half the crowd twist in confusion. A woman clapped her hand over her mouth, muttering, "This is spiraling," though no one asked her what "this" meant. Everyone already knew. And then, the moment that pushed the room from uneasy to unsteady. A teenage boy in a baseball cap, who had been facing away this entire time, as if deliberately ignoring the chaos, suddenly turned around with his phone pointed straight at Jimin and blurted, "Are you actually sitting there?" The question was too raw, too loud, too honest. People whipped their heads toward him. A girl whispered, "Stop talking." Another hissed, "Don't." But the boy didn't lower the phone. He blinked, confused, like he hadn't realized he'd spoken at full volume. The question wasn't answered. It didn't need to be. It just hung there, rattling the edges of the room. And for the first time, the tension wasn't quiet discomfort. It was exposure. The kind that can't be undone. The boy's question was still vibrating in the air when someone nearer the center row tried to stand and sit at the same time. Their knee buckling, their bag slipping off their shoulder and spilling everything. Keys, receipts, a half-eaten granola bar, onto the floor, right at Jimin's feet. And the scramble to gather it all happened too close, too fast, too visibly. The person's hand brushed his shoe by accident, and they recoiled like they'd touched an electric fence, mumbling, "Sorry, sorry, sorry," while their glasses slid down their nose and one lens fogged from sheer panic. The motion set off another chain. A girl across the aisle jerked back, knocking her elbow into her friend's cup, sending a splash of cold drink across the floor. A man tried to step out of the way, but stepped directly into the puddle, slipping just enough to flail, grabbing the nearest seat back, which happened to be Jimin's, yanking it sideways with a loud mechanical groan that made half the section gasp. Someone whispered, "Don't touch him." Too late. A phone flash popped. Unintentional, a nervous thumb. But the burst of white light illuminated everything. The overturned bag, the spilled drink, the man's hand still on the back of Jimin's seat. The staffer frozen mid-step, like he'd walked into the wrong dimension. The room jolted as if agreeing on the same horrifying thought at once. This shouldn't be happening. People ducked their heads, but lifted their phones. They pretended not to look, but their angles betrayed them. Every movement was a contradiction, every sound too sharp. And in the middle of it, Jimin didn't get up, didn't move, didn't react. He just existed in the crossfire of everyone else's mistakes, and that was enough to make the whole section tilt into something unstable. Something people would talk about later, not because of what he did, but because of what everyone else failed to stop. The section was already vibrating with its own confusion when the final shove happened. Not directed at him, not even intentional. Just two people trying to squeeze past each other in the cramped aisle. One misjudging the space, their shoulder clipping another's arm, sending a phone flying forward in a low arc until it landed face up on the floor. Camera already recording, pointed directly at Jimin from below, like a surveillance shot. The girl who dropped it gasped too loudly, lunging for it, but her fingers slipped on the wet floor, and she pushed it even closer to him. The lens filling with his image, his shoes, the seat he shouldn't be in. Someone whispered, "Oh my God, pick it up." Someone else muttered, "Don't touch it." And for a moment, nobody moved, not even the girl whose phone it was. The staffer bent forward too late. The girl scrambled too fast. Another person kicked the chair trying to make space, sending a hollow thud through the row that made everyone flinch like something had broken. Phones rose again, not high, but enough. Glinting, trembling, documenting. The girl finally grabbed her device, screen smeared, recording still running. And when she looked up at him, accidentally, wide-eyed, it wasn't awe or excitement. It was the stunned, guilty recognition of someone realizing they had captured a moment no one was supposed to witness. A murmur rolled through the seats, not loud, not coherent, just fragments. "This is bad. Why here? What do we do? Don't post it. Someone already did." And the pressure in the room thickened until it felt like everyone was breathing the same held breath. Jimin stayed still, the seat too small, the space too bright, the attention too raw. The staffer opened his mouth, closed it again. The crowd shifted, unsure whether to look away or look harder. And the scene didn't resolve, didn't settle. It just hung there, unfinished, unbearable. The kind of moment that spreads not because of what happened, but because nobody can explain why it happened at all.